I did it all for the money. When the player had to eat that one, the damn thing funny. Hey, I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all before. Rob people so dope. Gang banging, shooting pistols, running from the dance folks. And I was known for getting anything your ass folks. Soft, hard, green, brown, niggas even had. Welcome to the Playing with the Church Money podcast. Today we're going to talk about, we're going to continue on our series about leadership in the community. We're going to follow up with the conclusion of, what is the beginning of what looks like the end for Sheryl Stapleton Williams. We're going to talk about some politics, local politics, and then we're going to talk about some national politics, and then we're going to point out, some of the double standards that we have when it comes down to black people. We're going to get into immigration. We may dabble on some cancel culture vultures, but we definitely going to get to the Republicans and the Democrats playing with the church money when it comes down to the black community. All right, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into this. Looks like Sheryl Stapleton Williams was officially indicted. We're going to go ahead and see what happens. Like I said in my previous video, there has to be a change in leadership. People don't like it. People ain't gonna like it. I understand that people may feel attacked and people may feel like their job may be threatened, and it should if you're not doing what you need to do when it comes down to leadership. With that being said, let's go ahead and move on. Talking about Sheryl Stapleton Williams. So it looks like she was indicted, and like I spoke on my last video, for some reason now all of a sudden they're putting these safety measures to make sure no one is able to take advantage of the funds like Sheryl Williams Stapleton did. And like I said, no accountability. No one wants to be responsible for signing off on, approving any of that over the past 5 years of that contract. No one wants to be held responsible. Or the Attorney General, it's close to election time, and so he wants to votes or something, so he doesn't want to go hard on the PED members who signed off on Sheryl Stapleton Williams. She did not have that much power to do it all by herself. So I think other heads need to roll. The leadership in the community, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity here. We have one of the worst educational systems in the country, and being that Miss Williams Stapleton was in charge, or not, I ain't gonna say in charge of it, but she had been with APS since '84. We have seen zero effort when it comes down to creating dual credit programs, any kind of educational infrastructure for the black community. Like I said in my previous video, the Native Americans have a community high school over at CNM, I believe it's a dual credit high school, and I'm not for certain, but I want to say the Hispanic Cultural Center also has some programs, educational programs, but the Performing Arts Center doesn't. Being that she is a high level person in our community and that her name is on top of the Performing Arts Center, Robert Gibson, Buck D, he has a petition going to change the name of Washington Middle School to Benny Hargrove Middle School. So my thing is, if that doesn't fly, I believe immediately, without any further ado, Miss Stapleton Williams' name needs to come off of the Performing Arts Center, and we just need to go ahead and put the Benny Hargrove Performing Arts Center and Dual Credit High School on that building, and go ahead and create that program, something that Miss Sheryl Stapleton Williams should have done years ago. So yeah, we need to go ahead and create that program and get that renamed ASAP. It could be the Benny Hargrove Guardians, Benny Hargrove High School Guardians. That's what it needs to be at. Leadership in our community is quiet on this. There's always a saying that black people don't want to hold themselves accountable, and that's BS. I grew up Big Mama giving out them whoopings. Holding yourself accountable is the last and the least of it. People think there's going to be people from the community. Of course, there's going to be people from the community supporting this lady. But for the other people, such as myself, who had to go through this educational system, who had to be subjected to Mrs. Lynn and Brad Winters and their staff and administration at Highland High School in the 90s, it wasn't a conducive environment for a young person to be successful, especially when they target you to try to remove you from their class because they don't want you in their school. So I had to deal with that, dealing with Brad Winters and his administration at Highland High School in the 90s. She was part of that system, so she needs to go. We've been last since then, and we're still last now. I think that whole APS needs to go ahead and be gutted. We need some more, we need oversight. We need public and civilian oversight for a lot of these agencies. I'm coming from the point of view from the mental health aspect. I've worked in mental health for a couple of years and participated in treatment team meetings, psych evaluations, and a lot of other proceedings that had to entail with the kids' well-being. And so after leaving New Mexico and moving to North Carolina and doing that in my mid-20s, I was able to see the difference between a state where they are invested into their youth, or at least at that point was, versus a state that's not invested in our youth. So then when I moved back, you could just see the difference. I was working in a group home. I was a one-on-one to one of the kids. So I went literally and sat with the kid all day, made sure he did his homework, make sure he acted up. He acted right. I mean, I was able to see how the special education system only does so much for the kids. And these kids are bright and smart. And the majority of the kids, only because I was in North Carolina, was all black, except for maybe 2 or 3. The teachers were all white, and I was the only black, quote unquote, educator in the building. So all the kids would gravitate to me. They'd see me outside of school. Hey, Mr. Will, hey. And it makes a big difference when you have someone that looks like you educating you, especially when you come from some of these communities in the inner city. You know, if you don't have someone that sounds like you, that looks like you, you're not gonna relate, and you're gonna push that. You're gonna reject that. We need more black educators, man. That's just hands down. We need more black educators. We need more male black educators. It was gratifying to me that all these kids looked up to me at that point. It was a point in my life where I was transitioning out of the streets to being a functioning member of society. And so it was gratifying for me, and it helped me move forward and with that transition. Like I said, coming back here, there's nothing like that whatsoever in our community. We have certain individuals in our community, just like when I was a kid, you know, we had Brother Ted, and you know, there was certain other brothers that were around the community that you looked up to, respected, especially if you didn't have no father figure or role model in your life like that. That's first and foremost. But with that being said, she needs to go, and anybody that's part of that regime needs to go on. If you're here to play politics with the community, then don't come to the community for votes. Go be a politician, a lobbyist, and do all that. If you're gonna fleece the community and you're not gonna provide anything for your community in particular, then you need to go. Those are my personal sentiments on Sheryl Stapleton Williams. So when people start to be outraged and say, man, when you throwing the sister under the bus, I ain't throwing the sister under the bus. No way. She threw herself under the bus because there was nothing provided for our community. Just because you have your name on a building and you still a politician, that means you got work to do. So I didn't see any work since she's been working for APS since '84. Those are just my personal sentiments on the situation. So we're gonna segue from that over to the local politics for the mayoral race. I touched on this briefly on one of my other videos, and I need to make a correction because Eddie was briefly taken off of the ballot, but he was put back on the ballot. Now I'm not sure what, but we'll get to this guy. We'll start with this clown first. Yeah, I said it, clown. You vote for Eddie, you're gonna vote for Trump, basically, and over extreme, over the top Trump. So they just had a race for the congressional seat held by Deb Haaland, and it was Melanie Stansberry and Mark Moore. The Republican Party in New Mexico, they picked their candidates. They had an array of candidates. Eddie was one of the candidates. Mark Moore was one of the other candidates. This guy is so garbage that the own Republican Party of New Mexico will not even pick him to go against Melanie Stansfield. They picked Mark Moore, so that should let you know right there this guy is trash. His own party won't even pick him as a candidate. So for him to be running for the mayor race of Albuquerque, it's laughable. It's comical. And for the people that want to stand behind those type of politics, it's nothing but divisive politics, because he's the type of person that will come to me, someone who's not a Democrat or doesn't even consider himself a Republican or a Democrat, and I'm automatically going to be labeled a liberal, yada yada yada. And it's just the underlying undertones of the Donald Trump presidency, which is just a bunch of buffoonery. If you yell loud enough, you outdrown the facts. That's what it is. If you make it funny enough, you outdrown the facts. If you make it interesting enough, you outdrown the facts. If you make it scandalous enough, you outdrown the facts. And this is what this guy is. No substance, all fluff. The next candidate is going to be the Democrat sheriff, Manny Gonzalez. This guy refused to have his deputies wear lapel cameras till he was actually forced, either by law or because he knew he was going to run and it was going to look a certain way. So it was trash. And then he got denied for funds, election funds, by the official that was appointed by the current mayor, who's the incumbent, who's running, for office against the sheriff. And he had a court hearing. He basically admitted to submitting falsified signatures. So basically what they told me, what happens with this, how this happens, they said all the candidates do it. And what it is they'll get a canvasser, somebody who's going around to get these signatures. And so when they go around to get these signatures, you don't get paid if you don't get 500 signatures in that day or whatever the case may be. So you can get 450, you're not going to get paid. So this supposedly this is what happens. This is the status quo. This is the the murderous operandi of the whole operation. This is what happens. This is what they do. So they said, you don't have enough. So when you go to turn in your paperwork, you start saying to yourself, oh man, I need 50 signatures. So you start putting down people and so on and so forth, that they donated $5. And then when they start auditing these signatures, they start seeing, well, this isn't right. And so they're saying this is what happens, and they're basically saying that Mayor Keller did the same thing. However, you're a law enforcement official. You should know better. And by you admitting to submitting false signatures, that's like you admitting to election fraud. Basically, that's what you did. It's not nothing that I'm making up. This is what happened. This is what he did. This is what you did. So, being that you're part of law enforcement, you should be held to a higher standard, but the same standard at the same time. So if candidates are doing that, then all that those should get tossed out, or it should be fixed where you need to go fix these signatures and collect these signatures. And if you can't get these people to verify, then this election fraud. But these people will play these semantics and these type of games for their elected officials. So this is what they said happened. Nonetheless, he didn't get it. So my thing is, I'm not gonna want someone that's gonna be law enforcement. The crime is already trash as it is. He's part of that system. Regardless, he is part of that system. So the entire 4 years or 3 years or whatever it's been that Keller's been in, the crime's been going up or whatever, he's been part of that system also. So for these people to try to put him up as a candidate when our crime he hasn't been able to resolve the crime with the current policies that were in place with the mayor prior to him or the current mayor. So he doesn't have the answers. He does not have the answers. And then that will leave us with the current mayor, Keller, Tim Keller. And this is going to be a playing with the church money moment right now. I'm talking about the current mayor, because what you have with the current mayor is you have someone who wants to play the part, but actually, like all politicians, they play this role and they put themselves out there to be, you know, this quote unquote savior to the community and stuff like that. And instead of just coming forward and being honest and say, look, we got some issues we need to take care of, and, you know, I'm gonna try my best in the next 4 years to work with them. I'm not gonna sit up here and play these political games. I'm just gonna get to work. And you always have these politicians that get in office and they love to have their 15 minutes of fame in the line, like I like to say. You know, these guys love to be in front of the camera smiling, and every now and then they'll get on the hot seat, you know, and that's respectable. But for the most part, what you have is these guys are always trying to do some kind of ambitious project to leave their stamp on the city and squander funding that's just could have been utilized much more efficiently. Perfect example. So currently there's some kind of building development they want to put downtown across the street from the Greyhound station, between 1st and 2nd Street. Looks like they only had one developer that came forward with a plan, and so now he wants to develop this. Now, we've seen this in the past where they're all on Gold, between Gold and First. You have that whole development there. I don't think they took them years to fill those, and I don't even believe they're filled. And then you have the other development that was supposed to be this big breakout, you know, live in, work, live in, party type of facility over on First and Central. I don't believe that's all the way filled either. I mean, there's people that are living in there, but it's not what it was supposed to be. They were actually giving out free rent to some of the other buildings on Gold Street. So now you want to build more housing down there, and the issue with the housing is that we got people that are price gouging there. You know, you want to rent a apartment in the war zone, the highest crime area, for $1,200 a two bedroom. Are you crazy? That will make me want to go shoot the landlord. That will make me go want to stab somebody. That will make me want to go rob somebody, because I gotta pay $1,200. But it's garbage. That's the issue. There needs to be some kind of moratorium on the price gouging when it comes down to these people have money that they can get, that the government is giving to them, and they're still raising the rent. Last place you're going to be able to get an affordable apartment is going to be the International District. Everybody else who's living around Albuquerque will end up in the International District, because that's the only affordable place you will be able to find. Trust me on that. It's getting crazy. That's the issue. We don't need more housing. You know, when people are selling houses in the International District for I want to say the lowest I saw was like $189. People in the International District cannot afford a $189. The same house that was $90,000, you know, five years ago or so. So that's not the problem. But like I said, he wants to build this ambitious project so he can leave his stamp and his name on the city. So he wants to build that. He wants to build this soccer stadium, $70 million soccer stadium. I already touched on that. You know, somebody trying to get them votes. Keller try to pull a fast one, killer, and it didn't pan out. So now here's the next move to try to get the union builder votes. I guess that's That's the only thing I could think is, this development downtown. That's his ambitious plan when, you haven't yet tackled the crime in the city. There's so many things that are currently in the works in the city that haven't been completed, but at the same time, there's a lot of squandering, just like always, like usual. And I'm gonna go back to my personal experience when I asked for the $250,000 at the Youth Violence Prevention Summit. Now, the money I asked for was a drop in the bucket compared to what they were giving out, that what was in the budget. So it never panned out, and so I've kind of counted up my losses, man. I spoke with some other people and just looking at something, at another angle of getting it taken care of. And so I know people are going to say, man, why are you talking bad about the mayor? If you need that money, he ain't going to give it to you. I can't miss what I never had. They ain't give me the money I asked for, and that came down. It went from 250 to we'll give you 20 to we'll pay for 3 kids. So to offer me $20,000 to try to fix a problem in our community, a violent problem that deals with our youth, but then give the Pride people $50,000 to paint the streets was a complete slap in the face, complete disrespect. And that's how I took it personally, because I was the person who asked for that money. This isn't something like the black community came and asked for the money. I asked for the money for the community, and it wasn't an urgency. It wasn't a priority. It wasn't of importance to the administration, and so I was offered 20,000, but yet and still they gave 50,000 for paint for a pride parade. I don't know. Y'all tell me what it is. Y'all let me know what that is. And so that's where it comes down to. People always think that black people are, be on the Republicans, side, and we side with these people. Here it is. I'm just showing y'all. I ain't gonna side with none of these clowns, because at the end of the day, it's all hot air. And if you for 1 second feel like these people have your best interests, because now all of a sudden, oh, I'm a Democrat, oh, I'm a Republican, oh, I'm a socialist. Trust me. We can sit down, we can have a long conversation, and I can point out factual and actual events where these people just want you for propaganda purposes. So black people need to wake up to all that BS. And the same goes for, these new groups popping up in the community, social, religious groups. But these people, they can teach you a whole bunch of divisive BS, but they can't teach you anything productive and substance to move forward as a people. But they can come in and teach you, here, let me rehash all this divisive nonsense. And so this is what the politicians do. This is what the Republicans and Democrats do, and the socialists, communists too. They all are out for themselves when it comes down to it. Keller's no different. Keller is no different. He thought, when we have a UNM football player that gets killed, and he's a white kid in a more upper scale, I'm not going to say upper scale, but more of the upper scale area of town where more white people are going to kind of live at, versus about a half mile down the way where all the rest of the students live at, and it's a little bit more rough and ghetto. This would be the quote unquote the historic Nob Hill area. You have a white kid that gets killed there by a black kid, and you gather the community leaders together for a youth prevention summit, and one of the attendees comes with an idea and asks you for $250,000, and you defer to offer that person $20,000, and then months later you actually give $50,000 to the Pride committee or whatever to paint the streets rainbow colors. So to me, you don't have there's no sense of urgency when it comes down to resolving any kind of youth violence. There's no kind of sense of urgency when it comes down to the needs of the black leaders in the community. You know, you threw chump change at us. That's my personal opinion. You threw chump change at me. And then you spit in my face by giving more money to another organization which wasn't going to have anything to do with violence, at-risk youth, or improving the lives and employment of those people in those at-risk communities. You gave $50,000 for a celebration, so that just shows your urgencies and your priorities are messed up. This is just a wake-up call for black people in our community. Next election, put out your own people. Stop going with these people. So after that, I stopped dealing with these people. I've reached out, and there's somebody actually that works with the mayor's office that offered me some more funding. It wasn't going to be what they said they would give me, so I mean, good person. Life takes you in a different direction sometimes, and so that's what happened. I had some personal things going on in my life where I had to leave some of the community stuff I was doing alone for a while, put that on the back burner because I had some personal stuff going on in my life. So that's where it's at. Putting it out there that, you know, that's what the value of your vote is, you know, for the people that want to know. That's what it is, you know. If you want to go out there, none of these people have your good intentions. So next mayoral candidate race, we need to put up our own candidates. I don't care if we lose every single election cycle. We need to have someone from our communities out there pushing the message for us. I don't care if it's someone from the frat community. I don't care if it's somebody from the activist community. I don't care if it's somebody from the business community, or all three. You know, but that's what it needs to be, a concerted effort. If y'all want to come over here and say, oh, well, I'm going to come and I'm going to be the Republican or the Democrat, you are not trying to help us. You are not trying to help us. So if you want to come to the table, and that's the problem with our community, we don't have no political unity. And maybe that's what it needs to be. Maybe we need to pencil our own candidate in. But that's where it needs to be. We need to have a consensus. So we'll do a little vote right here on this video. Y'all in the comments, go ahead and leave. Who would you pencil in from the community? You know, you have like the Corley from the dealership. You have the brother who owns Nexus Brewery. You have other people from the community. The brother that hosts the New Mexico in Focus with the dreads and the glasses. You have Ebony Ice's boo, her husband, Hakeem Bellamy. Nicole Rogers from the Office of Equity and Inclusion. You have other leaders. Finney Coleman. Man, I can keep going. There's a lot of brothers and sisters from our community who would do a better job than some of these people. But that's what it is. Who would you pencil in? And so let's get that. You know, too bad Bonnie Greyhouse ain't around, you know, but let's get that in the comments. Who would y'all pencil in for our leaders from our community, so we can have some kind of idea? So when we go to the election, if you don't want to vote for Keller, Zanetti, Hetty, or Manny Gonzalez, you could go ahead and pencil somebody from our own community. Worst can happen is we win. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's the worst that could happen. We lose. We ain't got nothing to lose. He ain't an official candidate on there. But if we had at least some kind of consistency, some direction we could go to. I've been at some of these mayoral debates. Some of these, I've hosted a mayoral debate at the hotel where I worked at previously, and it was the debate with Peretti, Keller, Cologne. There was several other people on that ballot. And Peretti was a shark on these dudes, you know what I'm saying? So if you have a kid that was the age of my daughter at the particular time, going up here and giving these dudes noise. A well-organized candidate from the black community could win every year. And that's what we need to understand, that these people have laid out this narrative and have created this narrative where any black person is BLM, he's a liberal, and he's a Democrat. Any black Republican is an Uncle Tom. And trust me, there's a little bit of truth in all that. There's a little bit of truth in all that from both sides. And on both sides, it's far from the truth. You know, you have people that are actually there. But because these people have created this narrative, another black candidate, another black person that's going to be on one side is going to look at another person from the other side, and there's not going to be any kind of unity. There's not going to be any kind of coming together. And so once you guys have already decided that's what you're doing, then you need to move out the way, because you ain't doing nothing for the community besides dividing, trying to divide one side from the other side. And that goes for the white politicians too. We don't need that. And I think people after this Donald Trump era, I think most of you black people are smart enough to understand. Hopefully you're smart enough to understand by now that these people don't give a damn about you. By me pointing out my personal experience with this current mayoral administration, that just lets you know that you're not worth it. You're not worth it. You're only worth the vote. That's what it is. I think people are going to say, hey, man, when you're trying to get this program, you're going to need them. I can't miss what I never had. You know, I can actually go on my own and probably create a program and do it on my own without them and get further. So that's what I'm looking at doing here in the next year or so. I've reached out to Pamela Herndon. I reached out to other people in elected positions, and these people do not reciprocate. They do not reach back. So like I said, if you're from the community and you're out here running for these positions, you can't pick and choose. I mean, I understand you want to put your legacy, but if someone has a program that needs to be created for our community, then the baton, the torch needs to get picked up on that, and we need to run with it. I just don't see no effort from some of these politicians, and we need to start putting our own out there. We need to start putting our own out there. At least we know. At least you know, if someone like me was in there, you know, I ain't gonna get bought off. I ain't gonna stop fighting or conform to anything. And there's other people in the community who I know are the exact same way. We may not agree on the same things politically, but we agree on certain things. So that's the thing about it, that at least we know the people that are coming from our community. We know certain characters from those people, so we know we can depend on those people to do what they need to do. But we're not putting those people out there to be candidates, and a lot of these people are not trying to be political candidates. There's a lot of leaders from our community, man, you know, that are no nonsense type of men, and those are the people that had to live kind of through the civil rights and stuff like that. So by the time it got to our era, you know, they wanted a little bit different for our kids, and at the same time they had to deal with the systematic racism that they had to deal with from their era, and then we had to deal with it from our era. So now just seeing that these people don't care, and I'm strictly talking about the Democratic administration of Albuquerque. If a rainbow paint on the sidewalk is worth more than getting at-risk kids from the worst zip codes off the street and into a program to become certified paralegals, wasn't it sounded good, and you know, but we'll give these guys money to paint the sidewalk. It's safer. We can pan that out. That'll be a success. But when it comes down to this type of work, us really doing the work in the community, going and getting these kids and putting them in these programs, we don't feel like the investment, we don't think we're gonna get the ROI on, the ROI. We need to talk about the ROI on that, and so that's what it seemed like. We're not gonna get the return on the investment. At least the gay people will vote for me. That's how I took it as. Now, balls in our court. It wasn't worth investing into the black youth of our community, because who else are they gonna lock up after that? It's not. There's no incentive. It wasn't no incentive for him to give us the money to get the next shooter, the next drug dealer, the next gangbang off the street. But there was more of an incentive for him to give the gay pride parade more money to paint the street rainbow. So black people, that's y'all decision y'all need to make at the end of the day. And that don't mean, oh, we finna go be Republicans. You think they gonna do the same thing? You don't think they gonna do the same thing? No, what it is, it's time for us to start kicking butts and taking names. And so we need to move these people on out and move our people in, and that don't mean it's going to be a full takeover of black people. We need to get our people in some of these positions, and that's what it needs to be. And black Republican politicians, black Democrat politicians, you guys are served notice. You are on notice. If you're going to continue the politics of your counterparts with all this divisive BS, and you ain't gonna come to the community with nothing substantive, don't come asking for votes. And so I'm gonna take a list, and if you don't come around when these shootings happen, and you don't come around when it's time to open up these programs that we're opening up, or when it's time to help get this funding, and you're not advocating with the community leaders to get this funding, don't come around for votes. You will see me at your political rally. So, like I said, I'm not here to be a cheerleader for the Republicans or the Democrats. I'm here to hold the politicians accountable to the community. And they ain't gonna like it. And some of y'all ain't gonna like it either. Because some of y'all getting a free ride working with these people. And salute to all my people out there really doing work, all the people out there in the nonprofits really doing work. We need to come together and structure a little bit more. We need to organize more. That way we don't got to deal with this BS. So that's just my sentiments on the current political situation. I'm gonna leave that at that. We're gonna come back with part 2 here. We're gonna talk about the Haitian border crisis, but for now, this is just a follow-up. Sheryl Stapleton Williams, mayoral election. Make sure your votes count. Make sure to leave a comment. Who from the black community could we pencil in? That way, we need to start organizing, because these groups, these well-organized groups in the black community, they ain't organizing with the rest of us. They organizing amongst themselves, but they ain't organizing with the rest of us. And if they is, I don't hear no voice, and they must be backing one politician or another. That's why they quiet as a church mouse, because they still collecting dues and they still coming to the community just like these politicians to get their members. Just like a gang member, he gonna come to the community to get the kids to put them on the gang. It's no different in the frats. It's no different than the military. It's no different than the politicians coming for votes. So, you brothers in the community, you want members, you want membership. Don't come to the community if you ain't out here doing stuff, but you want to come and get the best and the brightest out the community. So that's just my message, man. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe just a little bit of trying to keep it a little toned down, man. I'm a little upset about the Haitian stuff, but Playing with the Church Money podcast, man. Y'all let me know who we pencil in from the community. This could be one of the brothers from one of the organizations, and it is a lot of good brothers in some of these organizations. But we need to also hold organizations accountable for you know, the lack of leadership in the community, you know, at the same time. So let's let it be known if, you know, some of these brothers is you know, it might be a leader from the Elks, it might be someone from the Prince Halls, it may be you know, one of the big brothers from the frats, you know what I'm saying? So let's put them names down there. It could be an activist, your favorite activist, Art Bell or somebody like that. So let's go ahead and put who you would pencil in, you know, and let's go with that, you know. Your Alex Hortons, your new young leaders in the community. Let's pencil some names in so we can have some kind of idea of what direction we want to go in. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it at that. We'll be back with part 2, man. Playing with the church money. Y'all stay blessed.
I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all for the money. When a player had to eat, that one a damn thing funny. Hey, I did it all for the money. Hey, I did it all before. Rob people sold dope, gang banging, shooting pistols, running from the dance folks. And I was known for eating anything you asked for.